When I'm walking down the street.
I do want to say to Donnie and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
I may not look like you and you me, but
Take my hat off.
I'm from South Carolina, so I just...
You got it.
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Morris?
Oh, my heart.
Happy 20th anniversary.
My heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? John.
And dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself.
The doctor lived next door to the janitor, to the reverend, and the lawyer. We were together. Now we get so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Donnie, for all you've done. Let's keep doing it all and more.
Letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. And I dare you, I dare you, I dare you to be you.
First name's Donnie, last name's Glover. Entered the winning for the long haul, baby. For the long haul, baby. You know what time it is. There it is. Oops, there it is. The CIAA is in the house. CIAA. You know what CIAA means? Well, I'm going to tell you. Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association. It includes 12 teams. Something that I had never heard of until last year. I thought somebody was pulling my leg, but there are 12 teams in the CIAA. CIAA is the oldest HBCU circuit and competes in Division II. Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association is a college athletic conference affiliated with the national NCAA at Division II level. Okay, we said that headquarters Charlotte. Well, the headquarters is Charlotte, but they playing basketball in Baltimore right now. That's what they're doing. They're playing in Baltimore right now. Okay, CIAA. Who won the CIAA tournament? The Broncos earned the win despite the Hawks outgaining FSU 28-50. No, that's football. Oh, forgive me. So we're waiting on our guest to come on, Brother Julius Grant, and he's going to tell us about this upcoming step show that has everything. I don't really know if I like that green right there. So, but it's going on. It started Tuesday, the 21st, and goes through Saturday, the 25th. 5 days. They had a big event last night downtown at the Rossi Center. Y'all ever been to the Rossi Center? That's the old Christopher Columbus Center. You imagine somebody named something after Christopher Columbus in this day and time? I mean, talking about politically unconscious, politically like goofy. In a city like Baltimore, one of Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott calls one of the blackest cities in America. I knew they know better. Let me tell you, we have Black Wall Street happening on Tuesday, featuring the Joe Mann's Black Wall Street Award. They're like plaques, look like that, okay? Where we celebrate Black entrepreneurs and professionals, as well as the people who support them, regardless of race. And honorees include Bernard Nelson. I called him Wilson yesterday, so my bad. Kim Moore. I actually pronounced that Kim Moore, like noir. Kim Moore. Mona Lisa Terrence Frazier. Terrence Frazier is co-owner of City of Gods. Tawanda Jones. Tawanda Jones runs West Wednesdays. And they've held this West Wednesday event, an advocacy event in honor of her brother. They've held this for 500 Wednesdays. That's a lot of Wednesdays. Talking about a month of Wednesdays, 500 Wednesdays. Conan, we're supposed to honor him in D.C., so we're going to do it here in Baltimore. Edwin Avent runs Baltimore Collegiate School for Boys. Mark Clack has been involved in politics since forever. Tracy Stevens, she's a artist, graphics artist, photographer. We got Ricky Vaughn. We're going to recognize Ricky Vaughn. Ricky Vaughn is a serial entrepreneur, and he is no joke. And then we got Jerry Cross. Jerry Cross is the one who dragged me into journalism back in 1994. And Jeff Hargrave of Mahogany Construction, Black-owned construction firm that does top-notch work. So that's what we're dealing with here. I think my guest got a little large, so I don't know how we're going to work this out. But what else do we do? We have another Black Wall Street scheduled for March 15th down at Hoodfellas. But I won't get into those details until we get through Tuesday's event. But I will say that the mayor, the city council president, that should be interesting. Those two are among the honorees. Mayor Brandon Scott and city council president Nick Mosby. So again, I hope you get a chance to get down to CIAA. This is my CIAA gear. Really nice hood. The young man selling the gear gave me a discount because I was the media, because I am the media. And that young man just don't know. His name's Trey. Trey, you made my day to have our people celebrating business and having our people in business and understanding all of the nuances that go with it. It's just a beautiful thing. So Doug Burnett always wants to send me notes and messages while I'm on the air. Y'all got to stop that being a distraction. What else is going on? So just for the particulars, CIAA tournament, men's and women's, all the way through this week. They claimed a whole week here in Baltimore. They have a 2-year extension, is my understanding. That happened last year. I know some people in Charlotte may want him back, but it's here in Baltimore. We're going to show them something Charlotte can't show them, like crab cakes. I come to Baltimore just for the crab cakes alone. Wouldn't you? Dr. Tyrone Taborn is bringing back the Bayer Black Engineer of the Year Awards. He's bringing it back to Baltimore next year. We just had it. Last one in D.C., and then we're bringing it back to Baltimore so we can all get back on the same page. Black Engineer of the Year Awards. Oh, my goodness. Some 38 years of the Black Engineer of the Year Awards. That's phenomenal. It features scientists, researchers, doctors, generals, admirals, high-flying, high-heavyweight people, Northrop Grumman, all of those heavyweights. Beautiful, beautiful. And nobody in this town puts on a business networking event better than Tyrone. Wayne Frazier does a decent job, but Wayne Frazier can't touch Tyrone. Come on, Tyrone's the boss now. When it comes to that networking, he's done it. Done it around. On the air, I can't talk right now. Okay. So Tyrone Taborn, best event ever. Black Engineer of the Year awards, and he also is heavily involved, Tyrone Taborn, that is, in the metaverse. And so here comes that, I guess. So big ups to Dr. Tyrone Taborn for caring, and he's mostly known as one who closes the digital divide. We all know that some communities have computers, some don't. That's something you wrestle with when you consider that most of us have some type of smartphone, and that's a computer. But, we use it for TikTok, and maybe if we don't have computers, maybe we ought to be using it more for our education. I mean, there's a little thing on the smartphone called Google. Do you use it? It's not rocket science. They even have a microphone in case you can't spell real good. So these are other things we'll discuss. But right now, we're going to transition on over to our guest, Julius Grant III. And Julius Grant III, normally, how you doing? Good morning.
I'm doing well. How you doing this morning?
Now, I didn't know you were doing shirt and tie because I use this as an opportunity to show off my hood, man. I mean, it's a bad hood, man. I like this hood.
I tell you what. Hey, you look like you're living the legacy. That's what you look like you're doing.
Where you from, Julius?
I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina, but I've lived in Charlotte, North Carolina the last 16 years.
Now, I know you came on here to discuss the Step Show, and I can't wait to get to all of that Greek stuff. But I need to tell you that I learned about a very famous man from Charleston. Well, he wasn't from Charleston. Back during the days of the transatlantic slave trade, they snatched him and he ended up in Charleston. But Dr. Eugenia Collier at Baltimore's own Morgan State University, I was doing some research with her one summer on Denmark Vesey.
Denmark Vesey, okay.
Denmark Vesey hit the number in 1799. Yes, black people played the lottery, even though we might have had, our freedom. A lot of us don't have freedom today. People got warrants and stuff. But he hit the number, Julius, and he bought his freedom.
Wow.
And then the good white people told him, you should take the change and move it back to Africa. And so he said, no, I got a better idea. I want all my people to be free. And long story short, right there in Charleston, you ever heard of the Citadel?
Of course.
Well, they built the Citadel because of Denmark Vesey. It wasn't no stroke of genius. We was in the story somewhere, Julius Grant III.
Hey, we're always in the story. Every story there is, we're in the story. Creating the story, developing the story. We might not get credit for the story, but we're in the story.
Well, you know the rest of the story. I mean, you can put two and two together. There was a snitch involved, so Stop Snitching started way back before the guns and the drugs and all of that. Stop Snitching happened back down the plantation where some people figure, hey, I'm going to turn in Julius Grant III because I know he about to jet. He on the Red Eye Special with Harriet Tubman.
That's right.
All right. So fast forward 2023. Why is CIAA important to you?
Yeah, it's important to me. I've got several different reasons. I got 3 kids who are in CIAA schools, but more importantly, the platform that the HBCUs bring to students, to young African-American students, is on another level. My youngest daughter goes to Johnson C. Smith, and she's a chemistry biology major, and she's like, day 4, Dad, the professor knew my name. The professors care. You're not a number. I went to PWI. I was a number. You can come in and see me in my office if you want to, but it wasn't important for them to see the success of, more so they were more concerned about my athletic ability than they were about me getting an education. And so that's the importance of HBCUs. People all the time are like, oh, well, why do we still need HBCUs? It is vital. because if you look at the PWIs, they are PWIs. It's important. It's important for me, for what I do for Van Wagner, for the CIAA, to raise money for these colleges and universities so that they can continue to help our students grow, thrive, and give them opportunities that might not been afforded to them otherwise. Today here in Baltimore, at 10 o'clock, we have a career expo from 10 to 2 at the Baltimore Convention Center. We have over 60 companies here, and they're not just local companies. We have national, regional companies are here looking for people who want to do internships, people who want to get jobs. So, it's important. It's important to the city of Baltimore. One thing that we said, and our commissioner, Jackie McWilliams, she does a great job of, when we come to a city for the tournament, it's not just us coming in trying to make money and leave out. This week alone on yesterday, we had a high school education day. We had over 2,500 students in that high school education day. We had all 12 of our member institutions were there. Kids were able to find out information about our schools. They were able to apply for free. Kids got accepted on site. Kids got scholarship money yesterday. So bringing things like that. Yesterday, we did a men's empowerment luncheon. Today, there's a women's empowerment luncheon. Tonight, there's a diversity and inclusion event. This Saturday, we're doing a Shoes of Hope. We work with Samaritan's Feet to do a Shoes of Hope. What we do is go into elementary school. We take off the kids' socks and shoes. We wash their feet and give them brand new socks and shoes. Now, to some people, that would say, okay, what's the big deal about that? Until you've been on one of those where you realize you got a second and third graders crying because it's their first pair of new shoes they have ever owned. Kids' shoes too small, too big, taped together. As you're doing that process, you're getting to have a conversation with them and find out what their hopes and dreams, and even more important, express to them, hey, you can do whatever you want to do. Quick short story, and I know we don't have long, but
we got as long as you. We're not going anywhere. We're here for you, Julius.
So a couple of years back, Commissioner was watching this little boy's feet, and she was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he started crying, and he was like, I want to be an astronaut, but I can't be an astronaut because my family is poor. We live from shelter to shelter, and my little brother has cerebral palsy. Now, one of my partners is NASA. We brought him and his family to the suite. NASA still to this day, 3 years later, quarterly, they send him a care package. You want to talk about changing the trajectory of people? That's what we want to bring. Not only changing the trajectory of our young people who go to our member institutions, but the community. Without the community, none of this happens. Without our student athletes, none of this happens.
But let's unpack that for a bit, Julius. When you first mentioned Charleston, it took me back to 1799. This is 2023. You have spoken to the power of our historically Black colleges and universities. But I'm going to share with you a thought. I don't know if you know you was going to think today, but we putting you right on the hot spot. Dr. Martin Luther King said, the richer we become materially, the poorer we become morally and spiritually. We have learned to fly the air like birds and swim the seas like fish, but we have not learned the simple art of living together as brothers and sisters. We know, Julius, that Black America has $1.6 trillion in annual disposable income. We had a lady on who's raised over $100 million over in DC for the YMCA. Her name is Tycely Williams. And she said that we are the best at giving back. But it's not across the board. Julius, a lot of times, and I don't think it's like that in North Carolina, but I have seen with mine eyes here in Baltimore and other places, with those of us who get in the door. See, you and I grew up in that generation where service is the rent you pay for living. To whom much is given, much is required. But Julius, this 2023, and people ain't falling for that no more. Not everybody. A lot of people are sowing the me. I was just reading about these executives. They get into these doors. The goal, I thought, Julius, was like to open the door and hold it for somebody else, like this young man who just wanted to be an astronaut. And he figured that his station in life was already predetermined because of some broke experiences. He wasn't poor because he had a great thought. Poor would have been not thinking about being an astronaut, but despite his condition, he still had a dream. Help me out with that. A lot of us won't help Jesus. That's what I'm saying, Julius.
I agree, and that's part of why I do what I do. So I'm the vice president for Van Wagner College, and I oversee several different properties. Last year at this tournament, I had a student from Bowie State who shadowed me everywhere I went. Part of it is me explaining to him, you need to see if this is really what you want to do in life. That student now is an intern of mine and will probably be hired July 1 of this year. I've got on my staff, I have 2 marketing coordinators. One's a Fayetteville State graduate, one's a Johnson C. Smith graduate. It is imperative once you make it, or as you're making, that you put a hand down, 2 hands down, 3 hands down, and you're pulling people up. Money only lasts so long. I unfortunately lost my mom 3 weeks ago.
God bless you, Julius. God
Thank
bless your heart. One day at a time.
And the one thing that my mom taught me, money will fade. Your name will never fade, and your reputation will either fade or it will be polished. The great thing about my mom's funeral was we were able to celebrate her life because she uplifted people. It wasn't mourning. We all had our times. It's a celebration. When I go, I want to know that I pulled people up. The difference between a non-successful person or a somewhat successful and a successful person is, are you more in tuned on the hunt, or are you more in tuned on seeing other people hunt and get their kills? I get more excited when my team does well than I do when I do well. I expect to do well. I always expect everything I do, I put my all in it, and I expect for it to turn out. I get more excited when my team gets a big sale or medium sale or small sale, and they're like, man, I can sell a deal for $350,000. They sell a deal for $10,000, and I'm telling you right now, I'm doing backflips for them.
You got to do 10 before you get to 15, before you get to 20.
Exactly. So
base hits, right? Base hits.
And here's the thing is, to give back to our youth, to show them the right way, costs you nothing. It costs you nothing. And so I do think it's utterly important that whether you're on your way up or you're there, that if you're not reaching down and grabbing and pulling somebody else up with you, who probably was in your same predicament, 10, 15 years ago, then what are you doing with your life? Because eventually your life will be over.
I'm getting ready to challenge you, Julius.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, Black women are killing the game. What game? Every game.
They are.
And some of them are mad because they had some negative experiences either with a Black man or their daddy, and they ain't playing. They kicking butt, and they're not playing with Black men. They say that a lot of Black men gotta tighten up their game. You look on the college campus, Black women everywhere. How do we get our brothers? How do we get our brothers who are growing up in 70% single mother households? I know you had a man in your life, a daddy, an uncle, but you look like a big old football player. Them cigs, somebody was, but our village has changed. Help me out, Julius. What do you see?
Yeah, it's such a tough subject because everybody thinks that things can be everybody thinks that things can be solved with one solution. It's not one solution. There's multiple solutions that we have to do to take back our village, and it is to take back our village. You know, people all the time say that, as a single mother, I can do it by myself. And yes, 100% you can, but is it the right thing to do? Because here's the thing is, a husband and a wife, they bring different things to the table, and it's a balancing act. One might be the disciplinarian, one might be the nurturer. It is difficult, very, very difficult. Now, my mom did it. She balanced both, but, in the perfect situation. So 70% is just, we've got to change that.
We used to be the most married. Julius, in the 40s and 50s, we were more married, despite our condition, more married than the rest of America. And they knew the powers to be, the same ones who assassinated our greatest leaders, Malcolm X, Dr. King. I heard Malcolm X family about to sue the government for $100 million. They're getting their own impoundment zone. But the greatest leaders, when they get shot down, then the mother wants to treat the young black man like baby boy. Or I want my child to have things that I didn't have, but somewhere along the line, especially you, and I imagine you did decent on, you weren't no slouch on you play football?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You knew you weren't going to make that team without leaving it all on the field. You had to have that winning spirit that you have since applied to business, to family, to give it to your philanthropy. But that winning mentality, it was already in you. You know what I mean? I guess I got a little sidetracked off my goal.
Yes, it was in me. And I would say it was in me. But at points in times, people had to pull me up to get it out of me. It was always in me. I remember when I was in college.
You had to do the work.
I remember once I was in college, I was at the beginning of college, I was a C student. And one of my teachers came to me and she was like, "You are a heck of an athlete." She was like, "Why are you dumbing yourself down to fit into the mold that they want you to fit into? You are way too smart to be making the grades that you're making." And, the stereotype of, "Oh, I'm a jock." Nah, I'm a student athlete. Student.
Dollar first.
And that's some of the things that we're teaching, especially this week. We've had several different things with the basketball teams of men's and women's, and sitting in. Then Wells Fargo did a financial literacy on how do you capture your wealth? How do you keep your wealth?
Stay away from credit cards and don't abuse your credit.
And also here is, and I'm still struggling with this with my kids, is your savings account is not checking account number 2 that you're sliding money over. Savings account's supposed to be savings. You're supposed to save it. You're not supposed to touch it. Hands off. And so those little understandings of how you can, be successful financially is important for us to insert into our players for the CIAA.
My parents did a great job, but we didn't have that conversation. So when I first landed in Atlanta at Morehouse in 1983, all I noticed was I was getting credit card offers from everywhere. Now just innately, I was like, I better leave that alone. But nobody had the conversation. I could have been building good credit if I knew how to use it.
You act like you're anybody different from the 70s, 80s, and 90s before they put a stop to them bombarding campuses. You get a free T-shirt if you sign up. In huge debt coming out of college. Because the credit card, I was like, I'm just going to get it for special occasions. It went from just, I'm going to get it from special occasions to, oh, man, I'd like to have a pizza right now, man. Let me go ahead and order a pizza. Having the understanding that it is a wealth building instead of if you can't pay it off, don't buy it. If you can't pay it off monthly, don't buy it. Or
but
you don't need
the credit score. A lot of black women, they know their credit score.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I've just got my own solution. I'm going to ask every young man, well, when it's appropriate, Do you know your credit score? Do you know how to check your credit score? Do you know how important your credit score is? And I'm talking about, listen, I live up here in Sandtown. Before we get down to the basketball game, we got to go through these rough streets of Baltimore. A lot of these cats slinging heroin, cocaine, crack cocaine. But I need to talk to even them. Do you know your credit score?
That's important.
You got a new pair of tennis shoes. What's your credit? What's your highest? It's time to have that conversation because we're not having it often enough.
Absolutely.
So I know you came on here to talk about, I see you got the blue on. I don't want any trouble. I don't want any trouble with the Greek Panhellenic Council. None of its representatives, so I'm going to fall back.
Yeah, so I am a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, and of course we have two step shows. We have one Friday night, which is the Greek step show. It will sell out probably by tomorrow morning. It is a phenomenal event that we throw every year. Last year, so the Greek step show doors open at 6. It starts at 7.
Where?
At the Baltimore Convention Center.
At the Convention Center.
Yeah, at the Convention Center. And you can find out all of the information by going to www.ciaafanfest.com. ciaafanfest.com. Now, here's also the other important thing is we have a 2-day fan fest that starts tomorrow. Our fan fest goes tomorrow, Friday, from 12 to 8 at the Baltimore Convention Center, and then Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The Fan Fest portion of it is completely free, 100% free. It costs you zero money to come to the Fan Fest. We've got sponsors out here. Wendy's is going to be giving away food. We got Nationwide who's going to be giving away prizes. Capital One, Comcast, Coca-Cola, DTLR is partnering up with Jordan Brand. So it's going to be phenomenal. We have 2 live concerts on Saturday. We have a young lady that's called Light Skin Keisha. And then we have King Combs, which is Puff Daddy's son, who's also going to be performing. These are free performances. There's a lot of things in Baltimore that cost money throughout CIAA week, but these are free to the public. We have small mom and pop vendors who will be in here selling purses, Greek paraphernalia, all kinds of perfumes, all kinds of different things. And the Fan Fest is free from 12 to 8 p.m. on Friday and then 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Saturday.
Wow. Okay, so here's a question for you. Why did you join Phi Beta Sigma?
That's a great question, and I have a great answer for you. So when I went to college, the only thing that I knew was Omega Psi Phi. That was the only fraternity that I knew.
Same here. I'm glad you said that. They were the first ones I saw in my neighborhood. They were military. They were coming through the mall. I'm 16 years old. I'm like, you knew they weren't drug dealers. You knew they were organized. They looked military, but they were too damn happy to be military.
Absolutely. And this is what I tell all Greeks, fraternities or sororities. You know, the school that you go to and the organizations that are on campus will steer you in one way or another. At my campus, I went to all of the informationals and for all of the Greek organizations, all the fraternities on campus. And the Sigmas were the only ones that were telling me, hey, we want you to make sure you go to everybody else's because you might not be a good fit for us. We don't want you to change who you are, your Julius Grant. We want you to bring something to the table. We already have the table set. We want you to bring your personality, yourself to the table. It was different at other fraternities that I went to where they were like, oh, it's all about us. It's all about us, all about us. I think sometimes with the Greek organizations, they get it twisted and they get it twisted early. They figure it out later. Twisted early, joining a fraternity is not a gang. I know we all have colors, but we're all in it for the same purpose. It's supposed to be for the scholarship portion of it. It's supposed to be for brotherhood, and it's supposed to be for service. If you're not,
Julius, I ain't going with you on that. Them cats joined the frat back in my day because they couldn't get no girlfriend.
I had no problem getting girlfriends.
I thought they were suckers, Julius. Seriously, how do you do that?
Yeah, well, see, for me, it was a way of focusing on doing things that I ordinarily probably wouldn't have done in my college career. Doing sleep outs for homeless, doing things like Big Brother program, bringing kids on campus. Those things as ordinary, I wouldn't have done if it wasn't for my fraternity making me focus on the things, and also focusing on discipline. Going into college, I was extremely undisciplined, taking me through rules and regulations that I should live my life by. When and it's just like your mama tells you, when you go out there on those streets, you're not just representing yourself, you're representing your last name.
Don't embarrass my name. Don't embarrass my family. That's what she said. Grandma too, my father too. Don't embarrass our family.
Absolutely.
So look here. Yesterday on the show, we had a man named Tiger Davis on. He was a former elected official here in the city of Baltimore in the state of Maryland. And he went on and on about this Sigma. I don't know if he knew the man was a Sigma. He wasn't talking on that level. He was talking about A. Philip Randolph.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It
wouldn't have been no March on Washington, wouldn't have been no Pullman Porters Union, wouldn't have been a lot of things. A. Philip Randolph was a Sigma, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was.
Oh my God, he was one of the greatest of all. So when you checked out the other teams, when you checked out the other fraternities, what is it? What did you like? Because let's just be honest, some of the frats, like they're real intellectual, but they might be a little soft, or one might be the pretty boy, they can twirl, but they.
I think it's a personal thing for each and every person. And once again, it also depends on the school that you go to, because your only introduction to the fraternity are the people who are already in the fraternity on the campus. So you can go to one campus where Sigmas are a certain way. You can go to another campus and they're totally different. And so to me, it's an individual choice. When I was doing my research, the one thing that I knew I did not want to do is I did not want to conform to what anybody else was or acted like or anything like that. I wanted to be myself. I wanted to be a better me, but I wanted to be myself. And at the school I went to, that's what Sigma was offering. That's what the guys on campus were offering me, just to be myself, and for them to help me be a better me, which then help our organization to be the best it can be.
So I want to know, my experience. So the first ones that I saw were the Omegas, and I was about 16 or so up at the area mall. But when I got on the campus of Morehouse, I'm like 5'9", 165 at the time, 160. Them cats are like your size. You don't look like you done missed no meals, Julius. You're a football player. And I just got the distinct notion that it was going to be a physical experience.
It probably would have been.
And so being from Baltimore, particularly from the Strip, I didn't think that was going to work out well. Not for me, but for them.
Yeah. Well, here's the one.
I've been waiting on somebody with a bat. You put your hands on me, Julius, and that's not real collegiate thinking. So I just stayed away from it.
Yeah. So here's the thing: is the fraternities and sororities have changed their rules and regulations, rightfully so.
This was back in the day. You had to throw. You had to, hey Julius, you better.
Yeah, my line name was Unstable, and unstable because they had me shook in so many ways. But the way we did things back then was not the way that you should. I think my pledging process, the way that they tried to do it, was to strip me down and build me back up. See, the problem with the way that a lot of people did it back then is they stripped down, but there was no building back up. The stripping down for me was important because to me, when I was on campus, I thought I was the best thing since sliced bread on campus and nobody could tell me nothing. And I knew when I go online, they ain't gonna have no more parties because Julius isn't at it. So there ain't gonna be no more parties. And I went online and realized, oh, the world does still rotate regardless if I'm in it or not, which was positive. It helped bring me down. But the physical part of it, you should never put your hands on anybody. Period.
Oh no, Julius. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I knew what would happen with me. You're a big fella, Julius. If I had to do an Oklahoma drill. You remember Oklahoma?
Absolutely.
Back in high school, I had to go up against this cat named Ransom, and he was like you. And for me, it was like running into a brick wall, but you had to because everybody watching.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna ride or die. And so I ran into that brick wall, but I knew that all Omegas, and I didn't know about the Sigmas at that time, but I did learn locally. There are people. I think Irvin Reed just mentioned he's a member. Scott Phillips, Phil Allen, Doc Cheatham. Doc Cheatham is one of the most known Sigmas in this area. And what I can tell you, I see with all of them very much is the service component. And service, that's what they do. And I love seeing that with all of the fraternities.
So let me tell you something that we're doing special. I've partnered up with the local MPHC here in Baltimore. They have a program that's been going on for 10 years called Blankets Around Baltimore. This is all of the Divine Nine. So I partnered up with them at the Fan Fest.
What's
and
MPHC?
It's the National Pan-Atlantic Council. So it's overseeing all of the historically Black Greeks.
Okay.
So we're going to be doing a school drive, collecting school supplies. Now, I partnered up with Coca-Cola and Wendy's, and we're going to have bins out here where people can come in and they can donate and hand and drop off pens, papers, pads, a little bit of everything to these kids, for these kids. The fraternity that gains the most stuff will get a check for $10,000 that they can donate to the charity of their or charities of their choice. The sorority. This is happening at Fan Fest, starting tomorrow from 12 to 8 p.m., 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Saturday. And you don't have to be Greek to do it. Drop it off at your favorite. If you want to drop it in the Q's bucket, drop it in the Q. If you want to drop it in the deltas, drop it in the deltas. But what it is causing is cause to action. Now, originally when they said that they were doing it, they said they wanted to do school supplies because, and this is what I found out, everybody does school supply drives in August. By November, December, school supplies run out, and that's when the teachers have to reach in their own pockets to start bringing out school supplies.
You don't want to get me started on education up here, Julius. It ain't right. It ain't right. All of this money, and I've seen it too, and we're not going to get off track. I've seen HBCUs. We need more money. We need more money. You better take care of your students.
Definitely.
It's one thing for us to say, hey, we have a lot of need, and it's another thing that when you get that money, that you do what you're supposed to do with it. And I mean, Black people.
Absolutely.
Do what you say you're going to do with the money. Not just you, but across the board. Because too many of us raise money in the name of this, in the name of that, and they out back stealing money, divvying up that money. You got to take them to the woodshed, Julius. We don't play with them.
Absolutely.
So look, we had to bring you on. We do a show later tonight on WEAA. That's Morgan State University. They've got a show called Hip Hop Chronicles. And if you like, we can bring you back around 7 p.m. to go on Hip Hop Chronicles and spread the word because we want people to give back. And yes, school supplies are needed. Look, they've collected $15 billion from the Maryland State Lottery. Supposed to be money for education, but we got classrooms with no heat. Julius, can you imagine closing school because you ain't got no heat or air?
I can't imagine, and that should never happen in this country.
Don't y'all got lotteries in North Carolina?
We do.
We got lottery in Georgia.
Yeah, North Carolina Education Lottery.
Money for education. Are we taking advantage of those opportunities?
I'm hoping that we are. I know in a lot of in North Carolina we have a thing called NC Promise. North Carolina Promise, and we have certain institutions like Fayetteville State. We have Fayetteville State, and with Fayetteville State, if you're an in-state student, you can go to Fayetteville State for $500 a semester. That's
What?
unheard of. $500 a semester.
Okay, any opportunities for young people in Baltimore? Would Baltimore young people be afforded that?
No, you have to be a resident
Only
of
in
the
state.
Yeah, only in state.
Okay. Why should somebody go to one of these CIAA colleges?
Because there's some of the best colleges out there. And also, if you look at our presidents, we've had a new string of presidents. These are some of the most caring individuals who are looking for their students to move forward and help their students move forward. People all the time ask me, hey, so out of your 5 kids, you have 3 that go to HBCUs. What are those 3 experiences? And it's the best experience ever. The culture, the feel. There's nothing like a HBCU. There's nothing like a HBCU. The campus, the camaraderie, the family, all of that.
What about the step shows?
Step shows are always wonderful. But, here's the thing is, and this is the one thing that we need to always draw back to. It's about the education. The parties can be great. The step teams can be great. The bands can be great. When it's all said and done, it's all about the education. And for me, I don't care why a kid decides to go to school. I just need them to go to school. It might be the girls. It might be the, step teams. It might be.
Hello.
Yeah.
Do you know the ratio? When a young black man tell me he don't want to go to college, I'm like, are you retarded, son? I mean, you get to live like a king if you've never lived like a king. And I just mean observing all of the beautiful flowers in the garden.
Absolutely.
All right, Julius, we don't want to hold you. Any final thoughts you want to get out there?
No, I mean, if you're in the Baltimore surrounding area, I want you to come out. You might not have $1 to your name. If you don't have $1 to your name, the CIAA Fan Fest is here. Most important reason why we're here is because of basketball. If you can afford to come out to the basketball games, please come out and support these young people. But the Fan Fest is free. Somebody asked me last night, because this is the second year in Baltimore. We're here until 2025. So 2 more years. They're like, hey, so how is Charlotte going to take this back from us? They're going to take it. They're going to take it from us. Because Charlotte's coming up this year. They came up last year.
They ain't got no crab cakes, brother. They can't touch the crab cakes. I don't care what they do. They can go get their mama's recipe. They can't touch our big mama's crab cakes. I'm telling you. Little mustard, little
and this is what I tell everybody. This is no longer for Charlotte's to take. It's for Baltimore to keep. Show up, show out, have a good time, and it will stay here as long as y'all want.
Have you been to Dunbar? You got to go past Dunbar. That's my alma mater. Paul Lawrence Dunbar Senior High School. It's not the oldest. DC actually has the oldest Dunbar back in 1870.
Wow.
But I went to Baltimore's Dunbar. That's the same school that a lot of greats, and not just basketball greats. You ever heard of Reginald F. Lewis?
Yes, of course.
That's a Dunbar poet, man.
Unbelievable. We're doing a diversity and inclusion event tonight at the Reginald F. Lewis Museum.
Yeah, it's a beautiful museum that Black people very much helped establish. A lot of Black history there. So your hometown what's your hometown again?
Hometown is, now I live in Charlotte. Lived in Charlotte last 15 years.
Okay, so give me a piece of Black history. This Black History Month, Julius, and I'm gonna let you go out on a winning note. Give me a piece of Black history that we don't know.
Piece of Black history that we don't know.
That we often don't discuss.
I actually heard one the other day. It was an African American who invented the refrigerated truck. He ended up, what's the name of the company now that he started? It's the biggest refrigerated truck company in the country.
Ryder?
No, not Ryder, it's refrigerated truck. But he is the one who created it and created it so that we would be able to transport.
Frederick McKinley Jones.
Yep, that's
Profile 20th century Black inventor who helped to revolutionized both the cinema and refrigeration industries between 1919 and 1945. Frederick McKinley Jones came up with the refrigerated truck. And you know, no refrigeration, we can't keep our restaurants good, can't get the food across country. The truckers won't have any work to do. Okay, good stuff. One thing before you go, who is the commissioner? Why should people know about this lady?
Jackie McWilliams Parker. They should know about Jackie because she is a trailblazer. She worked for the NCAA for the longest time, helping to run the Final Four. And she was the first Black commissioner in the country, and she is a trailblazer. She is the one that took
Slow
this.
down, Julius. You said she's the first Black commissioner, a Black woman.
Black woman. She
She shattered the glass ceiling.
Shattered the glass ceiling, and she is a product of the CIAA.
I heard she can play ball.
She could. Hey, she was two-sport athlete. She actually won a national championship at Hampton University when Hampton was part of the CIAA. So she bleeds CIAA for life.
You know, the man beat her in the last contest.
That was rigged.
I was there, Julius. He's a track star, but he had to represent his Baltimore. You know, this is a basketball town, don't you, Julius?
I know that's right. It is.
Julius, we appreciate you taking time. We hope that we did our part to help lift up CIAA here in the city of Baltimore. You shared some very encouraging information from Black history to credit to philanthropy and giving back. So thank you very much for joining us.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So I want to thank you all for joining us. Do check out CIAA. There's a lot of information. We didn't mean to bore Julius. He clearly has some other more important stuff going on. But thank you, Irvin Bernard Reed. Hey, Irvin Bernard Reed, I bet you know some of that Black history. Come on here. Hey, Philip Randolph. Y'all know who A. Philip Randolph was. He set the tone. He set the table for Dr. Martin Luther King. Peace to our friends and supporters all around the place, including Dr. Tyrone Taborn. My name is Donnie Glover, and that'll be it for today. Good morning, world. Be nice to somebody.